Okay, let's go.
He wants to jump
1,000 cars. Sir, you have 1,000 cars.
I don't think I'd attempt to try this stunt.
Or we owe this horsepower to Uncle Sam.
Too many cars.
Car. Roses would be...
Like I put my beer belly on it.
If you can't immediately tell somebody how many cars you have.
You'll really give those uppity yuppies something to think about.
Stay on the bar. Don't go off the bar with your Bronco.
1980 Volvo horns, what's right? I want a man's coolant.
And he's like, oh, I thought it'd be small. It's for a small car. And I'm like, yeah, but it's still an automatic transmission. They're never going to be light.
It's definitely going to have to crash.
Starting off with Brad buying another car.
That's the West. Internet.
Is this a Nigerian oil print?
I also wish you drove a tan Camry.
Anyways,
Anyway,
that's a
horrible,
very
horrible podcast content.
very
Talking about a picture.
inside joke.
They'd love to be driven hard.
Welcome to another episode of Auto Off Topic. What's up, Brad?
Not too much, Andrew. How you doing?
I'm all right. You don't have anything going on? I got nothing going on, actually.
And that's an episode. We'll talk to you
Just hanging
all
out.
next week. No, I got some stuff.
All right, good night.
I got some stuff going on. I've done some things and some stuff. I managed to not go to any of the events that I said I was going to last weekend, so there's that. But other stuff was slightly more positive, I guess.
Yeah, all I did was order parts and get a quote.
A quote for...
That's about it. The engine work. So they hit me back with the estimate.
Oh, excellent. You don't have to talk finances
I talk about that now.
You don't have to talk finances on air, but are you planning on getting it done there?
Oh yeah, I mean it's already there. It's not. It's a little more than I thought, but I don't know. I guess that's just what machine work costs these days. So, I mean, the head came out really nice. It was already painted when it got back to me. So I don't know.
The number they gave you to do your block isn't much more than I paid to get my cylinder head done. So, I guess at the end of the day,
yeah. But the crank is getting polished. They could do. They needed me to order the oversized bearings, so I did that. I just got them today. I'm gonna box everything up that they need to size, and I'll send it up to them, so they can finish up that stuff. But he said the crank takes they send them out. They send all the cranks out like every 2 weeks. They just save them up and send them out.
Okay, so it's not done in-house then.
Nope. I guess I got someone that does polishing. So I was like, "Yep, just do it, man." I don't know. It's like, what am I gonna shop around for machine shop? There's really none around, unfortunately.
Nope.
At least here.
So what?
Probably in Phoenix, where there's 5 million people, you can find a machine shop, but not here.
So what did they say about your pistons that you ordered?
Oh, I was like, well, I just did the 30 over because they were on sale. And I figured that'd be the safe route. And the guy was like, "Oh, yeah, that's fine. Don't worry about it. Just send it to me. We'll size them.
Awesome. That's perfect.
We'll
That's
match them to the cylinders."
Best case scenario right there on that gamble purchase, right? So awesome.
Yeah, that's the easiest way. And they'll check the rods too and make sure they're straight. And make sure nothing like the big end's not messed up and the little end's not enlarged or anything. So they'll check all that, and they're also going to fit my they'll install the cam bearings because those are kind of a pain. They're way inside the block, and just double check that they fit with the cam in there. So because it's a brand new cam,
right?
So
excellent.
But that's pretty much it. So hopefully, it's done, maybe the beginning of January, and I can go pick it up and then start putting it together. And, depending on the weather, getting that car together, hopefully it's running pretty soon.
I mean, we're recording here on the 12th, so what's 2 weeks to Christmas already somehow. So it's not, you're going to have a lot of time between now and then to put it together anyway with holiday stuff. So that is probably ideal.
No, but I'll have time to like pick stuff up if they're done with it. I can go pick
Oh
it
yeah,
up.
of course. But what I'm saying is, you get it back by January. That's probably fine. You don't need it back before then because it's the holiday season and life is busy.
No. I did find some pictures of the throttle linkage, like a parts diagram, so I can try to figure that out.
Okay.
And what I need, what's missing, because it's missing all of the throttle pieces, and the gas pedal's broken, so it's supposed to pivot off the floor, like it hinges. It's supposed to hinge on the floor, and then like push a rod that's on the firewall, like up and down, and then that levers over and moves another. It's a whole linkage setup, and that's what moves the throttles open and close. So I'll probably have to see if somebody's got most of that stuff used, because I think all the firewall stuff is missing, but you can buy the stuff that's on top of the engine new, but the rest of the stuff, I don't know. I'll have to search around for it.
Is it the same as later Volvos, like 240s?
I don't think so. I don't know. I don't know what they look like.
Well, thankfully, we know somebody who's got a couple 240s at his house. You can probably take a look at them if you had to.
Yeah, I don't know if it's linkage, because those had, throttle bodies at that point.
Yeah, they probably had
injected,
cable on them.
So, yeah, that's like the next thing, is to try to track down that stuff, and then I can also figure out what's missing. It seems like I'm missing the seat base, like that goes under the cushion that the cushion was attached to.
Yeah, whatever the cushion attaches to,
So,
that bolts to the rails.
Yeah, I'll have to again put up a post like in the Facebook groups and see if somebody's got them, or maybe I can find someone with a pair of Roach seats locally. Who knows? It's one of those things that somebody's probably got in their shed. I said in the Discord, some old graybeards probably got them,
and I
just gotta find.
And I took offense to that. Why?
It means you've got some experience.
I don't know. I actually take offense to it. Just felt like the right thing to say. Is there still a Volvo forum? There is, right? Like Turbo Bricks or something, still active?
Yeah, I don't know how active it is. The 140 group on Facebook is pretty active.
So I was pretty sure that
there's like an international one and then a US one.
I was pretty sure that Turbo Bricks still existed, so I thought it might still be an active place to try to find parts.
It does.
So some of the
it's also not a Turbo Brick either.
No, but a lot of guys build all kinds of Volvos there, and they have parts for everything. And you're looking for the old graybeard. What better place to find him than the early version of the internet, the forum? So just a thought process. I wasn't sure if you joined up there and had looked around, because I know it's not a Turbo Brick, but like I said, it's related enough, and enough guys swap red block turbos in those cars that there's plenty of 140 builds on there. So somebody might have something. But worst case scenario, there's aftermarket stuff available too. I know one of the Colt guys that I know was building his Colt, and he was able to buy like Willwood stuff that worked. So you can adapt something if you can't find the right thing, but Volvos are popular enough. I'm sure something exists. The beauty of a common enough car. You won't have to buy race car parts like free to for a Colt. So
yeah, exactly.
Excellent. All good news. Over here in the Phoenix side, we finally had our doors repaired in the garage. So, if you remember, I ordered doors that are supposed to open with the profile of the roof, but they sent us ones that opened up, closer to a 90-degree bend. So they went in and like part the way up, and I wouldn't be able to put a lift in. So they were able to get better ones that lift higher, and they lift the profile of the roof, and they installed those this past weekend. So that was good. So now I have nice full clearance in there. And whenever we refill the bank account for buying things that we completely drained building a garage, I can hopefully get a lift or two and have extra storage and a place to work on stuff in the air. So now I have the clearance from the doors to do that. So that was a big thing, but that's all in there now. They had to replace the tracks basically because the angle of the door is determined by the track angle.
Mm-hmm.
But also they had to replace the springs because going from the lesser angle to the higher angle means that there's that much more weight pushing down on the springs because they're not at a flat angle like above. I don't know how to explain it. Like if you lift something straight up and you lay it down on top of something, that's what it was like before. Now it's like you lift it straight up and you leave it in your hand. So it has that extra weight just hanging there. So they had to replace the springs with stronger springs. There's actually 2 springs per door now instead of 1 because that'll keep the doors from, crashing down while they're open. So that's all good. So that was the last real big thing the garage was waiting for before it was done. And I had been hesitant to just fill it with stuff other than just the cars because I knew they were going to be in there working around and didn't know what kind of space they needed. So I had to pull all the cars out of the garage so they had room to work in there. And of course, the NormCore was dead. Surprise, surprise. But thankfully, the garage door guys were pretty cool, and they helped me push it out of the way. So, which is nice. 'Cause a lot of people wouldn't have done that. So they helped push the car out. The Camaro started and pulled out, and the Colt started and pulled out, and everything else started. So it was fine, but they were nice and helped me push the car out of the way because obviously they needed to push it out of the way to get their job done. So that being said, I wound up replacing the battery terminals on the NormCore because they were trash. So I replaced the battery terminals in the NormCore, charged the battery up. Thankfully, it took a charge, and it started and ran just fine. I was going to take it to the Eurosport Cars and Coffee on Saturday, but in my brain mess, I forgot that the power steering was just evacuating fluid all over the place every time you turn the steering wheel. So I did not take it there because that was Friday that I moved it for the garage doors, and Friday night that I remember that it was just pouring power steering fluid out. So I didn't go on Saturday to the Eurosport Cars and Coffee. So
That's a fun car.
Such a fun car. Such a fun car. It looks cool.
Why don't you take the 944?
Oh, let's get to that next. All right. So the 944 I was going to take on Sunday to the FCP Euro event in Mesa. However, in moving cars on Friday, I started the car. And do you remember, I'd say it was probably a year and a half ago, you were out here and all of a sudden the 944 started making a slapping noise in the timing belt area? It started doing that again.
Isn't it like an adjustment every 5,000 miles or something?
Something like that. So I'm not going to...
It's so insane.
It's completely insane. So I'm not going to drive that car, obviously, from here to Mesa, which is like, an hour with the flappy timing belt. Also, I remember all the trouble we had trying to fix it last time with tools that we had lying around. And actually, I think we made a trip to the Midnight Parts Store to get an oversized wrench, didn't we? Like a 24 millimeter.
I don't remember. I think I ended up just like holding it by hand or something.
Yeah, we did something weird.
And then we tightened
But
it.
I know I was annoyed by it. So this time, I bit the bullet and I purchased the timing belt adjustment tool. Because they do make a special tool for it, so you don't have to Yeah. So I ordered that. But that meant I was not going to drive that car to Mesa, or was also not going to drive it to the Eurosport Cars and Coffee on Saturday. So instead of doing that stuff, I did literally nothing. So there's that. But
sometimes that's also fun.
Yeah, it is. And there was plenty of other stuff going on. We had some family events going down, and it is what it is. But I didn't do any car stuff on the weekend. Actually, that's not even true. I did go total NormCore car shopping all weekend long. Well, all Saturday long. So that was a thing. Our niece got rear-ended, and she had like a 2008 Toyota Camry. So obviously it was totaled. Let this be a lesson to everybody listening. I've said it before and I'll say it again. If you're ever in a not at fault accident and the person says, I'll pay for it out of pocket, just say no.
No,
It never works out. Never works out.
No. Whenever somebody's like, I'll pay out of pocket, I don't want to go through. No, just get their information.
Sorry.
No, just
not my problem. You smash into me.
Even when I was
day.
younger, I was smart enough to not let that happen. Like, just don't let it happen.
Somebody who's not in the automotive space probably doesn't have maybe the same cynicism about it that we do. But this guy rear-ended her. He was driving a Tacoma, and she has like I said, a 2008.
If you have
Camry, go ahead.
Yeah, but the thing is, you're like, insurance is there to protect you.
Right.
Your
you
car.
pay a lot for it. Use it.
So use your insurance.
Especially in a rear-end collision.
If
you're not at fault, there is literally no detriment because it does not go against you at all. So anyway, if you're not in the car space, you might not know that. So this was how it was handled. The person that hit her was the service writer at a Jaguar dealership. So already suspicious.
I'm sorry. So you don't have, he must be very busy and or lonely.
Probably very busy. There's a lot of Jaguars around here. Anyway, that particular Jaguar dealership is part of a dealership group that also has a BMW dealer. And on the same property, it's Jaguar, BMW, Land Rover, and Ineos Grenadier. So he says, we have a body shop. I'll just have them take care of it. I'll pay out of pocket. Don't worry about it. So I looked at the car and I was like, this car's probably totaled. He's not going to want to pay out of pocket. He probably thinks it's $500 worth of damage because he's used to being a service writer at a car dealership where he charges $300 an hour to fix your Jaguar. But what he doesn't notice is that every time he brings something over to the body shop where it's $65 an hour, they charge him $100 to paint a mirror cap or something. And he probably thinks that is the kind of cost it's going to cost to fix this. But I was looking at it, like the trunk gap was opened up and the tailgate, the taillight was moved. And I was like, no, your whole situation here on the left side is trashed. So, but yes, anyway, she drops it off at the body shop, gets a call later that day from the guy that hit her. Hey, I can't afford to fix your car. Call insurance. Yeah, which is, we knew was going to happen. So, and what I said was the car is probably totaled, and the insurance came out and they totaled the car. So,
in your professional opinion,
yeah. Well, hey, listen, it's not my job or anything, but hey, you know. So anyway, again, no shade on her. Again, she's young. She's a young driver. She doesn't know any better, and she's learned, right? She thought she was doing the right thing, and now she's learned. But nonetheless, it wound up working out because at least the guy did have insurance, and he was able to, put it through his insurance. And she was honestly in the market for a new car anyway. She'd been talking about getting one for a little bit.
Yeah. Bonus.
And she definitely got more from the insurance than she would have got selling it outright. So she definitely did okay. So anyway, the moral of the story, that I wasn't even going to tell that part of the story, but the moral of the story is I spent Saturday NormCore Car Shopping with NormCore dealerships. Something I don't think I've ever actually done. And it's definitely, as described by the rest of the world, a not fun, terrible experience. It just confirms that car salesmen are the worst.
Why does it take, and this is a legit thing that people have raised, like, why does it take all day to buy a car?
Well, you got to find a car first.
Exactly. But even if I've gone in and bought a car that I know I want, still takes all day.
I don't know. Some people have made this better. Like, you went with me to buy the Volkswagen. We were in and out in 45 minutes.
Yeah, but like buying my Volkswagen wasn't that fast. We were there probably half a day, even though it was a car that, like, they didn't have to sell. You don't have to sell me this
Right.
car. I just want to
Yeah.
buy it. This is the easiest commission you're about
Yep.
to make. Just do the paperwork. And
I guess it depends
whatever.
on the situation.
Just
Like with my
get me in
Volkswagen,
and out.
we had pretty much done all the paperwork ahead of time. And basically me going down there and looking at it was the formality. Hey, if this is not what you say it is, I'm not going to buy it. But the paperwork's already done. We just need to go in, sign the paperwork, get some plates, and go home. So that was why we were there.
I guess I don't know what it's like to not walk around, or to walk around and not know what car I
Right.
want. I guess is my blind spot. I don't know what that.
Well, this wasn't even that, because she already knew what she wanted. And she wanted a normal person car. She wanted a Honda HR-V, which I didn't know much about previous to this weekend, but in her budget,
Is it a lifted
it's
Civic?
basically a lifted Civic. Yeah, it's 1.5 turbo CVT. It's just a Civic. It's a Civic hatchback that's slightly taller. But in her budget, you couldn't get a similar year, similar miles Civic. You couldn't get a similar year, similar mile Corolla. You certainly couldn't get a Camry like she had, like the same options in a Camry with that mileage. She was looking in like the 19 to 22 range as far as price, and a 20,000 to 30,000 mile Camry with her options that the HR-V comes with in that same year range, which would have been like 21, 22, was over 30 grand used, which is absurd. So
Wait a minute. The sedans cost more?
the Civic costs more than the HR-V.
That's
I don't know.
weird. I would have thought.
I don't know what
SUVs would be more.
I don't know
desirable.
what the market is as far as new, but I know that used ones, there were definitely no Civics that were in the same ballpark as price as this HR-V with the same options. So at the end of the day, I'll fast
surprising.
forward to the end. She wound up in a 22 EXL, which is the top of the line. So that has literally every option you can put in the thing, with 11,000 miles on it for 20 grand. So it's not a bad buy for a normal person car. And a similar
What
a
year was it?
22.
22, 10,000. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's-
$20,000.
That's a good.
Yeah, right. That car brand new was like 32 grand. So she basically saved 12 grand by buying an off lease HR-V. Now, that being said, getting to that point was impossible, because I don't know about you, but I mean, I know you have worked in car dealerships. We both cut our teeth in the industry in car dealerships, right? That's where we started. It used to be that if a car dealer had a car on their lot advertised for sale, it was clean. It was ready to sell. You could usually go with confidence knowing that it was going to be a good condition car, especially when it was marketed.
Yeah. Yeah, at least where I had worked, it had to be before a car was sold. It went through. Usually, you had one or two techs that all they did was used cars.
Yep.
So I got a used car check, which at minimum was like an oil change, and maybe a set of brakes or something. And then it went over to the detail department and it got reconned, reconditioned, and that's what they do. They like vacuum the heck out of it. And then maybe if it needed a buff, they'd throw a buff on it and some tire shine, and it goes on the line.
I don't know if something happened during the whole car apocalypse during COVID, but that is not the case. We went to multiple dealers looking at cars and were shown cars at full retail market value with body damage. Like, not like
Weird.
You might accept like a ding, like a door ding. It's a used car. It might have a door ding. But I mean, we're talking cars with dents, like actual dents, bumper covers that were cracked and hanging off, broken, cracked taillights, One particular car that we were pretty excited about because we liked the color, and it had 18,000 miles or something, and it was the right price and the right options. The guy goes and gets it out of the storage out of the back, pulls it out front, and this is advertised on their website for sale at full market value. All 4 doors were scratched above the doors from somebody trying to break in it at some point. The driver's side, all of the weather strips were ripped from somebody trying to break in it. The front bumper was hanging off. The whole entire right side had been painted. It looked like by, a body shop, didn't have a spray booth. There was rotational scratches on all the wheels. It was like, what are you doing here? Like, this should be half price. Like, this car needs a complete paint job and 4 wheels. And like, what are we doing? Like, why would I buy this car? Like, why is this on a car dealership lot? And I'm not talking about I wasn't talking about cheap Johnny's used cars. It was literally a Honda dealer selling a used Honda.
Yeah. That's like how they'd come from auction.
Honestly,
and then they get
this guy would never have made it to the recon department. It would have gone right back to auction to be sold at Fast Johnny's used cars. Like, it's not something a dealership would have. And we ran into that multiple times. Like, I go to look at a car and I'm like, why is this? The reason I'm going to a dealership to buy a car, like a Honda dealer to buy a Honda, is I'm expecting to get a quality vehicle. I'm not expecting to have to deal with typical used car stuff. Like, that's garbage.
Well, right now I can tell you what my theory is that they figured out that when you couldn't get cars, people would just buy anything.
That's what I'm saying.
And it didn't matter if the thing was beat up. So now they're just like, well, that was a waste of money to clean it up. We can just still charge full retail and someone will still buy it. And that's a fault of the consumer for accepting that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't know if it happened.
That's
if
where
it
we're
happened
at
during that whole car apocalypse thing or not. But I will say a couple of observations. There were a couple of dealers that were different. Obviously, they're old school, goods things. And we're talking this podcast here, and obviously on this podcast we stand with Mitsubishis, right? That's our big thing. Always have, always will. They don't have a lot of enthusiast options right now, but they are building a decent normal person car. Unfortunately, Mitsubishi was not on our list either, because the equivalent to the HRV would probably be a Eclipse Cross.
I think so, yeah.
Used ones don't come with the excellent warranty, and new ones are too much money.
It's only the original,
right? But can I tell you what a Honda certified used car comes with? So a normal Honda has if you buy a brand new Honda, you get a typical, I think it's 360 or something warranty on it, powertrain warranty. It's a normal new car warranty. If you buy a certified pre-owned Honda, you get 1 year of free maintenance, and you get a 7-year, 100,000 mile full powertrain warranty on a CPO car. Yeah, so it's actually, to me, that's a better deal than a used Mitsubishi Kia Hyundai. If you can't get, and we couldn't get, again, that $20,000 price range, there wasn't anything. 20 grand gets you a new Mirage, which is not what you want. Like, she wanted the little SUV style thing. So again, for 7-year, 100,000 mile warranty, 1 year free maintenance, and an 11,000 mile certified pre-owned, she did finally find a car at Arrowhead Honda here. Had actually nice cars for sale. So good on them for not changing to the way all these other dealerships seem to be. But what a mess it is out there, for sure. So anyway, I'm not here to say anything good, bad, or indifferent about an HRV. I think I've described this same experience of the HRV when we talked about the Nissan Rogue. It's a car. It successfully aggressively cars. It does car things. It's a perfectly adequate vehicle for somebody who's in that price range. That's where we're at. I'll also say that we did go to the only off-brand car lot we went to was a CarMax, just because they have a ton of cars there. They don't do certified pre-owned there, but all of the stuff that they have there is also clean. So they don't have the damaged cars there. It was only new car dealers, used cars that were terrible, which is what kind of blew my mind. So,
yeah, that's CarMax is kind of they were trying to make car buying easier, so that's understandable.
Yeah, all the cars I looked at there were decent looking. They didn't have what we wanted, and the stuff they had wasn't cheap enough to justify buying one without a certified pre-owned. So
there's actually you turned me onto this podcast, Search Engine, and there's a good episode about CarMax.
Oh, is there?
And talking about, this one guy had a really hard time buying a car and then registering it in his state because it's the thing that has sort of happened to us where you run into a thing at the RMV and they're like, no, it's not us. It's the other person. You're like, no, it's definitely you. And they're like, no, it's not. And you're like, okay, now I'm stuck in this loop. And basically a lot of the podcast talking about how old school and paper-based RMVs were pre-COVID, and now post-COVID, it is really, and one of the things pushing them to be more digital are places like CarMax, and getting them to at least be updated and not be so ridiculous.
Seriously, I forgot about that podcast. I'll have to go back. I don't think I subscribed to it when I got a new phone. I'll have to resubscribe to that one.
Yeah, I'll send it to you. That's a pretty good one.
Yeah, that's cool. So yeah, that was what I did instead of going to Cars and Coffee. I wasn't even intending to talk about that. It just it came up, and that's a thought that I had.
Did you get coffee at the dealership? Cars and Coffee there?
I did not get coffee at the dealership. No, I did not. I did go to the Nissan dealer at one point, and that place is...
Oh, that sounds like it's sad.
It's pretty sad over there. Inside the dealership, they had 4 Z cars, though. And
finally getting them out there.
They all...
I saw one in traffic the other day,
all
actually.
Still have a $10,000 to $20,000 dealer markup on them.
Yeah, nobody's buying them.
Yeah.
Dummies.
Maybe you would sell cars if you didn't mark them up ridiculously.
Yeah. A company that's on the verge of bankruptcy, not wanting to sell cars.
So, whatever.
That's an interesting thing, that Nissan's really on hard times here.
I don't know a lot of details, but it doesn't sound good. What's wild to me is it doesn't feel like it was that long ago where we were kind of excited that Nissan was taking a controlling stake in Mitsubishi Motors because they were going to be like the saviors of Mitsubishi, but turns out that maybe they can't even keep themselves afloat. The rumor mill I'm hearing now is a bunch of Infinity stores are closing. And they're going to, in a bunch of markets, I don't know which market it's going to be, they're closing a bunch of Infinity stores, and you're going to have to go to the Nissan dealer to buy your Infinity or service your Infinity, which is anti-Infinity. And what made Infinity in the first place was it wasn't a Nissan dealer. So that's what sunk Genesis the first time around. They tried to sell it to Hyundai dealers.
Well, Infinities aren't really... got this argument on the internet because I'm too on the internet. They aren't really a luxury car anymore. They're just a badge job Nissan. Like it used, like when we talk about Infinities being luxury cars, like the Q45 was, and the G20 was, and the J30 was, like the back in the 90s they were, because they were not rebadged. Well, they rebadged JDM Nissans, but they were like the highest level JDM Nissan.
Except for
they just had
the G20. I know you personally love that car. It's a luxury car.
It wasn't. Yeah, but they made it nicer than it would have been a lot nicer than a Sentra.
For sure.
So it wasn't like, they just, like we've talked about it before, they were just too JDM for their own good early on. And
that's why the i30 sold so well, because it was a fancy Maxima. That's what America wanted.
But now it feels like their newer cars, it feels like they've been on the downhill since like 2005. Like the second generation G35 or whatever it was, after that initial 03 to 05 G35 that was really good, it just kind of went downhill after that. And they feel like
they pulled the performance
low
models
credit score
too,
cars.
So they got rid of all their, 6-speeds and Brembo packages and
top cars for stealing for sideshows, though. I think still
100%. Those Camaros and Mopars, and unfortunately, classic Lexus LS 400s.
Okay.
There aren't many of those left. Soon.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like maybe Carlos Ghost in there should make a comeback.
Maybe, but he'd be arrested immediately if he leaves whatever country he's hiding in. So,
yeah, I don't know. Put him back in the music box and smuggle him back.
Yeah, and then he'll get arrested there anyway. But yeah, I don't know what's happening at Nissan, but it's obviously not good. So hopefully they weather the storm. They still make it. I mean, as a company, they still make an enthusiast car. They still make a decent pickup truck. They still make an economy car. They have all the things, all the boxes checked, right? I see so many Altimas out there every day. I just assumed that they were doing well, but I guess what I'm seeing is the same Altima get sold 15 times from the buy here, pay here, and then repoed and sold again.
Yeah.
But I see so many Altimas with temp tags. I assume they're all new. Maybe not. Maybe also their issue is they got to get away from their Jatco CVTs that don't last 100,000 miles in their economy cars. That probably help them too.
Yeah, I mean, what you guys didn't buy a Nissan, you bought a Honda, or your niece bought a Honda. So you didn't even look at Nissan.
We discussed the Toyota version of the HRV, the CHR, but the price.
Yeah, that's
the price
weird.
point on that vehicle was a little bit more also than the HRV. The HRV is the
so many letter combinations. Let's make these really close.
Well, it's even more confusing because the other Honda is the CRV. So you would think that the smaller one, the CHR, would also be the Honda, not the Toyota. So, and then my personal favorite right now is I don't know if you've even seen one yet or noticed them at all. Is the Toyota BZ4X.
I may have seen him, and I just see. I just yawned because we're two Honda normie cars here. This is two sleeping.
Yeah,
I don't even know what half these SUVs are. I know there's like a Toyota electric that is basically the same as the Subaru Solterra.
That's the BZ4X.
Like they look like so similar.
I don't know why that car exists.
It's weird
because Toyota should just do a full electric RAV4 because they already sell RAV4s and people would buy it.
It's RAV4 sized, and it's just full electric. But then maybe it's so that Subaru can have a full electric.
You want to get even more confused,
but I guess it's
the Honda.
It's not a very good electric car.
If you want to get more confused, the Honda full electric SUV is actually a GM product. So,
I did hear that. How strange!
It's like a Trailblazer EV is the Honda something or other. I can't even think of the name of it now.
Well, then, wasn't that the rumor that Honda might buy Nissan?
I didn't hear that.
That's the rumor that I heard. So
interesting. Anyway, let's get off of normal car talk. The quick wrap up of it is car dealers are terrible. They were before. They are now. Some things will never change. Car dealerships are terrible. Car dealership employees are, and don't take this personally if you're a car dealership employee. Some of you are okay. 99% of them are not okay. They're terrible people. In fact, one more quick thing. At one of the Honda dealers, we're getting ready to leave. So I was there with our niece and Naomi. So it's me and two ladies. And I'm looking at a car. And the guy goes,
do they only talk to you?
So this is even worse. I'm looking at a car and the guy's like, the guy's trying to talk to us. I'm like, no, we're just here to look at one car. We're just going to look at it. If we want to, talk more, we'll come find you. And he's like, all right, some of the cars aren't over there. I'm like, but we're just going to look at it and we'll come back. So he went and looked at it. And again, it was a different Honda dealer that the car had. The tailgate needed to be painted and it needed a rear bumper. And it was sitting on their lot for sale. And I'm walking back to our car, and he's like, "Oh, so did you find the car?" And I was like, "Yeah, we found it. It's not as presented on the internet." And he goes, I tell the same thing to my girlfriend all the time. And I'm like, dude, like, first of all, it's two women you're talking to here plus me. Like, know your audience. Like, that's a terrible thing to say to somebody. Like, also, the guy was like 23 years old. Like, he was not a 70-year-old man who's making the same joke for his whole life. Like, I guess he couldn't make the whole joke for his whole life if he's 70. There was no internet for most of his life. But nonetheless, it was just like, just that old boys club mentality, right? Like, anyway, car dealership is terrible. Car dealership people also terrible. But I guess you become terrible when you have to work 24/7 and Thanksgiving and Christmas sometimes. Probably go to sell those cars.
Yeah.
It's a holiday. It's a
I
sales
do
day.
love that. Does bring up that's my favorite. One of my favorite sleeper movies is by what is it? Sell Hard, right?
Is that what it's called? Well, my immediate thought goes to Kurt Russell and used cars.
No,
Classic.
it's yeah. It's Jeremy Piven's in it, and
I know the movie you're talking about. Yes.
What's her face from
Daryl from The Office
is
is in
all
it.
along there. Yeah. There's a bunch of like office people in it. Ken Jeong is in it.
It's called The Goods.
It's The Goods.
Live
Sell
hard, live hard,
is
sell
what it
hard
I
is
think.
the tagline. But
Live hard, sell hard.
It's
Yeah,
called The Goods.
it's a really
pretty-
fun movie.
well,
especially if you work.
let's watch it here in 2024 and see if it holds up.
I think it still holds up. Because some of the jokes are pretty funny. That it's like the
DJ Request does not take requests.
I've seen more hair on bacon. Because it does have that trope where the old salesman's like, "Oh, is the little lady looking for a car?"
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's like, what?
For sure.
So,
Anyway, car salesmen are terrible. That's all there is to it. Oh, also, last fun fact about car salesmen, because I'm railing against all of them this episode.
right, go
Luxury
for it.
car salesmen are the worst. So
Yeah.
that is all.
The well, all right. Another cool car news that I heard today, because we've talked about it. We've been asking the question why Trackhouse hasn't gone endurance racing yet. Well, they're going endurance racing.
Oh, true. I did see that.
They announced that they have a car for the Rolex 24. So they're running a Corvette because they're a Team Chevy team.
I saw one of the drivers
And,
is SVG.
Yep, one of the drivers is Shane Van Gisbergen. And they have Connor Zilch, who's like 18 years old.
Yeah, he's an Xfinity driver.
And he's
Or
in
the
the
truck
truck
driver.
series.
Yeah, truck series.
Xfinity truck. Yeah, he's a heck of a truck driver, and a good road course driver too. And interestingly, a Team Penske IndyCar driver, Scott McLaughlin.
Okay.
That's interesting how that works. And then you have a sports car veteran, Ben Keating.
It's probably
So-
some kind of Team Chevy thing where they can use him. Penske's Ford, though. Yeah.
Penske's all Fords, but I don't know what powers their Indy cars. Is it Hondas? No. You've got Chevy. It's Chevy McLaren because that's why what's his face drove in Indy. Kyle Larson.
Yep.
We're gonna have one or two people screaming at us at their radios for not getting this, but I'm not sure what Penske has for power plants. But anyway, that's pretty cool.
That's
No.
Anyway,
But they're going to run a GTD Corvette. So that's super cool. GTD Pro, because they're all pro drivers. And it's a partnership with TF Sport.
So
So
Team
it's gonna be
Penske's
Trackhouse by
Indy
TF
cars.
Sport is the team.
Team Penske's Indy cars. The Verizon Team Penske
Yep.
Chevy. So he is a Chevy driver for Penske.
Oh,
in
okay.
IndyCar.
Well,
So it
then
looks
that's
like Penske Indy cars are Chevys. Yep.
Then that's
So
how it
where
works.
that's the connection. Yep. So it must be a Team Chevy deal.
Okay.
So that is weird though that they're Chevy for IndyCar
Yeah.
and Ford for.
Yeah, that's how it works then.
Anyway.
Yeah, I don't know. So Keating is interesting. He's an older guy, but he won the Rolex 24 in 2015 in the GTD class. IMSA Championship at LMP2 2021 and 2023. won the 24 Hours of Le Mans in 2022 with TF Sport, and again in 2023 with Corvette. Also the 2022 and 2023 World Endurance Champion. So that's cool.
So Trackhouse has a shot.
So it's yeah, because so what happened? Team Chevy officially ended the Corvette racing program. So now it's just the Pratt and Miller runs what were the team cars. So when you see the yellow and black classic looking Corvettes, those are Pratt and Miller. But Pratt and Miller also builds now privateer Corvettes to run in the series. So that's what they're running, is a Corvette chassis built by Pratt and Miller, but it's going to be run by this TF Sport and Trackhouse team. So that's why there's more private Corvettes running towards the end of this year and going forward, I guess.
That's cool.
They're customer cars. So that's pretty cool. Yeah. That was the other thing too. Like a month ago, they announced Audi Sport, the R8 GT3 car. They're discontinuing that after I think 10 years.
The R8's been around for a long time now.
They built them for a long time, like 300 of them, which is a lot for a race car. Like a purely only race car chassis. That's a lot to build 300 cars. And then they raced like everywhere. You'd see them everywhere, and certain races they did really well.
I know they're really big in a lot of the Asian endurance car racing championships.
Yep.
They have tons of the R8s over there, and I've learned that by being a diecast collector because they make models of all of them.
Yes, and they've also run and won in the Nürburgring 24 Hours, so stuff like that. But
if there's sports car racing in
cool.
the past 10 years, it's been an R8 at it, pretty much.
Yeah. Because we're kind of in there's no, I think F1's over. Yeah. There's no motorsports right now. So
no more motorsports.
We got it kicking off. There's no motorsports for the rest of the year. The first thing now we're looking forward to would be Dakar in early January. So that should be the end of the last week of December into first week of January, I think. So Dakar is coming up. And then you'd have probably the Rolex is after that. And then it sort of kicks off. We're back at the Daytona 500. So in February.
The motorsports off season is short, thankfully.
It is very short. So looking forward to that. I'm going to try to see what we can do for visiting an IMSA race in 2025. I'm not sure which one we'd like to visit, but we'll see what makes sense. Yep. But I don't know. Is there anything else?
There's so much else
car related.
You kind of jumped into my whole thing here with the Corvette talk.
I did.
Also, this weekend, Naomi surprised me with a set of dollies for the garage.
Oh, are they cute little dollies, and you can go on the
they're called timeout kids. Timeout kids? No.
Okay.
No, these are car dollies. I did mention last week that I did not buy anything during the Black Friday car parts sales, but apparently the Black Friday sale at Harbor Freight kept going for the entire week because it's Harbor Freight, and they had their fancy car dollies, the ones that you wrap around the wheel and then pump up with your foot, and they wrap underneath the tire. So the real nice ones.
Yeah, the ones I bought.
And they were $60 a piece, which is pretty cheap.
Yeah.
So I was actually at work last Friday.
Little jealous.
I came home and she was like, "Hey, I bought you something." And I was like, "Oh, what is that?" And they were in the back of her truck, and I was like, "Oh man, that's awesome." So I built all those and I put them back in the garage, and I used them to shuffle a car around. I mean, the car runs. I just wanted to use them. So I shuffled the Colt around with them on it, and they work really well. So
don't they work? Yeah, incredibly well. One person you can move a car
without
around.
even any effort at all. Works works really, really well. So pretty stoked on those. They also came with a stand to store them when they're not being in use, so I can take them off the car and just put them in the corner. And it'll be really nice for, moving cars around once cars are in non-running condition, which is around here all the time. So that they should get plenty of use is basically what I'm trying to say. They are making me rethink my not paving in front of the garage because I can't use them obviously on the rocks, but they work good in the garage. And if I can get the car from the garage to the cement portion of the driveway, I can use them to roll them up and down the driveway to the front and back. So pretty stoked on those. Cool to have. Super cool they were on sale so cheap because that's an unheard of deal. It was what, 120, 240. It was less than, I think it was about $300 with the stand, which is an incredible deal because normally they're $130 each. So we'll take it. And then
I think I was around 380.
So actually, you got a pretty good deal too, though. So
the regular deal is cheaper. You have to buy them
with the stand,
all four, and you have to buy the stand to get the regular deal,
which just came with the stand too. So I haven't built the stand yet because the Colt is still sitting on them, but that's beside the point. What else? Okay. RIP to my 90-degree 3/8 drive Milwaukee. Yep.
Uh-oh.
I'll get to try out Milwaukee's warranty program. So let's see what happens. It still spins in both directions, but the second that there's any, my hand holding the socket is enough torque to stop it from spinning. So that's not good. So something broke inside the head, which is a real bummer because I don't abuse it. I use it as intended. I don't crank down on bolts with it. I don't drop it around. I use it as intended, and I'm pretty careful with it because they're not cheap. So hopefully their warranty program takes care of it because I'll be annoyed if I have to buy another one. I don't want to buy another one. So it's frustrating, but it is what it is. And in the most important news, do you want to do a drum roll for me here? You can add it in post. It's fine. The Dodge Ram D50 Power Ram D50 is together.
Power Ram.
It's the coolest name. I mean, let's be honest. It is a great name. I was thinking of getting the vanity plate car ramrod, but
come on, say it. Say it. Car ramrod. Say it.
It's together and it runs and it works entirely. So yeah.
Nice.
That's the big news. So Tank,
and if you're in the Discord, you want to start a video of
Tank is in the truck. All lines are run. Lines are run from the carburetor. Filters are done. Oil change is done. It's filled with coolant. There was no leaks. I did plug one line up because there is an errant coolant line that goes to the factory stock carburetor. Has a water jacket on the base of it that the Weber does not have. So that coolant line had to be plugged. Eventually, I will probably have somebody weld up the manifold instead of just having a bolt in the end of the line with a hose clamp on it, which is what's there for now, but it is what it is. The throttle cable situation, which I was a little concerned about, actually worked out pretty well. The Weber just has a hole through the end of a turnbuckle. You can just put a screw in the end of it and tighten it in there. So that's what I did. So that worked out. A little bit of fiddling with some wires, and all the lights work. Headlights, taillights, turn signals, high beams, low beams, dash lights. Let's see. I haven't plugged in the fuel level sender yet, so I don't know if that works. But the coolant temp sensor works. It reads on the dash. The coolant temp goes up and down as it should. I haven't put a new thermostat in it yet, but I will before I drive it anywhere. But it seems to be the one in there seems to be working. I'm still going to change it anyway. I'm going to flush the coolant out of it a couple of times. I haven't actually put coolant in it yet. I've just been running water through it and a little bit of cleaning solution just to get everything cleaned out in there. And then I'll fill it with actual coolant and distilled water, and all will be well. But yeah, that hose, I think I talked about getting the hose last week, but I put it in last weekend and made it work. It worked out perfect, fits in there nicely. So the brakes work. I put it in gear. It shifts into first gear. I didn't try all the gears because it's sitting up on 4 jack stands. I didn't want to buck the truck around a bunch. But it works in first gear. The clutch works. I shut it all down, fired it back up once I had fuel flowing in it, let it sit for a couple hours, went back out there, started it right back up again. It holds enough fuel pressure to keep fuel in the fuel pump. So, I mean, there's nothing drastically wrong so far. The power steering works. Everything seems to work. I guess the brakes work. Oh, I tested the 4-wheel drive. It works in 4 high and 4 low. So I don't foresee there being any real problems. I'm sure there's going to be little things here and there as I start putting some miles on it. But I need to pick up some tires. So that's this weekend's project there's a Lantera around the corner for used tires. I just want to get 4 cheap tires for it to put some miles on it before I spend money on real nice new tires for it. But yeah, I just got to put tires on it, put it back on the ground, flush the brake fluid out of it, I plan on doing. But other than that, it's ready to try to get that cleaned up and put some miles on it. So fingers crossed. But we're in a pretty good place, I think. Which is good because I need to get it down on the ground. I need to start using it. I want to have it sorted and running well before the warm season comes around, because I'd like to be able to have moved on to fixing stuff like the air conditioning before the warm season gets here, so I can just drive it. So, because it is a factory AC truck. Well, it is a port-installed AC truck, but all the parts are there. I'll just need to... The majority of the rodent damage was the harness for that AC. So I'm going to need to rebuild all of that, the vacuum lines, and the wiring harness for that. But the fact that it's there is a good thing. So a lot of these trucks did not have air conditioning. So yeah, it seems to be moving right along, which is a positive thing around here, because sometimes cars sit for a long time. So wanted to make sure this was not the case with this one. But super excited. Another vehicle pretty much ready for the road. So
Nice. Glad to hear it.
Yeah, I mean, it runs nicely. It doesn't make any weird noises. It runs smooth. It smoked a ton for a long time. I think I probably let it run for, 10, 15 minutes, and it was just fogging out the entire neighborhood the whole time. But there's also, if you remember me talking about the intake manifold was full of liquid. I tried to get as much of it out of there as possible, but I'm sure a lot of that was still burning off. Plus, the exhaust system was full of mouse houses. So I'm sure a lot of that was stuff burning off. It was just stuff burning off from the truck sitting for 20 plus years. So I mean, I know there are some things that it definitely will need, like the muffler has a hole rotted through it. The e-brake cables aren't hooked up. So little stuff like that it will need, but the functionality of it as a actual running and driving vehicle seems to be pretty intact. I checked all tie rods, wheel bearings, all that stuff seems good. It'll need shocks for sure, but that's all stuff that can happen now that it's running as we go along. So stoked. And I even found a set of graphics that are almost exactly the same as the factory graphics. So hopefully I can get those on there too and clean up the outside a little bit. So yeah,
That sounds neat.
Quite happy. Yeah, I think I'm going to try to do the same style factory graphic. It's like 5 or 6 pinstripes in varying widths from wide on the bottom to narrower on top, down the middle of the truck. So yeah, we're up and running. So
Cool.
Couldn't be happier. Well, I could be happier. I could be done, tires, and driving it, but one step at a time. I couldn't be happier. So, yeah, that's where we're at. So, that, I think, finishes my updates from last week.
All right, cool. Yeah, it's an episode. I don't have much else. So, as always, follow us on Out Off Topic Podcast on Facebook, Out Off Topic on Instagram and Threads. I'm Erased in Anger on Instagram and Threads. There's also Scale Autocast. I haven't added anything there recently. I should add some RC car updates. But Brad, where can they find you?
They can find me on Instagram and Threads at TSISS350. I do have some content I've been getting ready for Scale Autocast. So I did have a couple of holiday cars that are pulled out of storage. One brand new one that I got last year that hasn't seen the light of day yet. So maybe that'll be a Christmas post.
I've got a couple new cars that I've gotten in the mail. I haven't posted them or anything.
I hadn't purchased anything diecast in quite some time. And I just bought the other day, it's not here yet, a 1/18th of basically my Cressida. It's a metallic blue. It's on the real version of my fake wheels, Hayashi Streets. It's lowered. It's right-hand drive because it's from Japan, but whatever. But the funny thing is that that car it's an expensive 1/18th scale. It's by a company called Ignition Model. And their 1/18ths are usually between $300 and $400. And because it's basically my car down to the color and wheels, I hemmed and hawed about buying it because I certainly don't need it, and it doesn't do anything. But also, I was like, I don't know. So I kept it in my cart on 1999.co.jp, and I got an email a couple days ago that quantity was limited. Very low stock, and it was now on closeout sale. So I went, So I looked into it, and instead of being $325, it was, $170, which is almost half price. So I said, I'm a sucker, and I bought it. So I don't have it yet, and the funny thing is that I bought it, checked out of cart, went and refreshed the stock page, and it said sold out. So my guess is I'm either not going to get one, or I got the last one. So we'll see what happens. But hopefully it shows up. They haven't canceled my order, but I also haven't got a shipping order yet either. So we'll see what happens.
Well, strangely, I pre-ordered 3 of the Eclipses in the silver, like my car, and they only sent me 1. Which was interesting. The limit was 3 per household. I ordered the max, and I only got 1, and I haven't seen those anywhere else.
I
ever.
Also don't have. What's the name of that color? I forget, but I don't have that either. I only have a black one, I think.
It is LaSalle Silver.
Yep. They did just announce 2 new colors for it. Yeah,
they seem to have sold out, and I don't know. I guess there's a lot more DSM enthusiasts than I thought, or they just didn't make that many of them.
Yeah, because for a while you couldn't go to a Target without seeing a half a dozen 3000 GTs in that aqua green. So I thought the same would happen with the Eclipses.
But I never saw Eclipses on the pegs.
I did not pre-order Eclipses. I got mine on the pegs, but I got was it black, the other color? They're black, right? I don't even know where it is. Yeah. So I wound up with 2 black ones, but I never found the LaSalle Silver.
Yeah. Because I wanted one that I could open. I wanted one I could give to my son, and I wanted one in the package.
The other thing is I was even looking on eBay for them. I couldn't find them there.
They're not around. It's really weird that they just disappeared. But I did see some posts of guys in DSM forums that had 20 of them or something. So maybe just DSM people went crazy because they never had a diecast in their car before.
But I'll keep an eye out when I go to the diecast store here in town. I haven't been there in a while. Maybe I'll see if they got any. They usually have some stuff. So,
all right. Well, that's a extended outro, but as always, keep your cars analog. I named the roses.